Let's look at the organizational units in the SAP CO module. The two main organizational units in the CO module is the operating concern and the controlling area. The rest are related to the other modules. For example, company code and business area are related to the FI module, and plant is related to a logistics module, which is materials management. Now let's look at operating concern. It's the highest organizational node in the CO module if COPA is activated, that is profitability analysis. If COPA is activated only, then the operating concern is the highest node. Now when you implement the SAP CO module, it's not necessary that you need to activate all the subcomponents. For example, you can decide if you're not in a manufacturing environment, then you don't have to activate product cost controlling. Similarly, you might not even want profitability analysis if you're not that much into detail of analyzing your products. Then you might just do with cost centers and profit centers and internal orders and the cost element, just the basic components of the CO module. So in that case, if you're not activating COPA, then the controlling area becomes the highest node in the SAP CO module. And controlling area is a must, so it's a mandatory configuration in the SAP CO module, and it represents a closed system for cost accounting. I like to think of like an umbrella where all the cost objects are under the controlling area. For example, if you want to create a cost center, an internal order, or a profit center, or cost element, any of these cost objects, any other type of cost objects, when you want to create them, you need to mention the controlling area. So it becomes an important field. Just like when you want to create a general ledger account in financial accounting, you need to mention the chart of accounts. Similarly, if you want to do any transactions in financial accounting, you will probably have to mention the company code. This becomes a mandatory field. So those kind of compulsory fields, or what kind of organization or what type of level you're creating them under, for the CO module, controlling area becomes like an umbrella where all the other subcomponents reside under. Now under one operating concern, you can have many different controlling areas. For example, you can have operating concern at a global level, and you can have controlling area at regional level. For example, an Asia Pacific controlling area, European controlling area, African controlling area, and so on. And under those controlling areas, you can have a different set of cost centers as well. You can even have the operating concern and controlling area one-to-one mapping. You can have an operating concern for Australia and a controlling area for Australia alone. You can have another operating concern for New Zealand and another controlling area for New Zealand. But remember that you can only allocate the costs within the controlling area. That's why I say it's like an umbrella where all the cost objects reside, and you can allocate the cost within those cost objects, that is between cost centers to cost centers, internal orders to internal orders, or internal orders to cost centers, and so on. All those allocation of costs all has to happen within the same controlling area. The company code is part of the FI module, that is a financial accounting module. It's an independent legal entity, and you draw up your financial statements, that is your balance sheet and your income statement, at the company code level. For example, you might have a company code like Coca-Cola Australia Limited, something like that, or any other company in your own country. Those companies in SAP Financial Accounting, you create them as a company code, and you give them a 4-character identification, and the description you can give your company name. So all your legal entities or your legal companies, you create them as company codes in the system, and they are used in the financial accounting for reporting requirements. Another organizational unit in financial accounting is business area. Now this corresponds to a business segment, or just like its description itself, it's an area of business responsibility. Now business areas are not attached to any company codes or any segments and so on. So business area, at the time of any financial transactions, you can specify to which business area it belongs to. Similarly, at the time of when you want to create profit centers or cost centers also, you can specify the business area in their master data. So this helps the system to derive financial statements for balance sheet and P&L by business areas. This again is another part of the financial accounting module. For the purpose of CO module, we'll only look at the first two as the one we are concerned most with. Then you have the plant. Plant is related to the logistics module, more with the MM module, that is the materials and management module. It is used to break down an organization into production, procurement and maintenance. Because plant wise you will have different productions. In plant A you will be manufacturing, for example, soaps. In plant B you will be manufacturing, example, shampoo. Plant C you will be manufacturing maybe detergents and so on. So you can have different type of plants for different type of productions. Also you can have plant and procurement also. You might have a central procurement plant where you only procure computer hardware stuff. Another procurement plant where you only procure packaging materials. Another procurement plant will only be procuring software materials and so on. So you can have different type of plants. And also for maintenance, you can also maintain, one plant only maintains the production lines, another plant maintains the assembly lines, another plant maintains the support lines and so on. So you can have different type of maintenance plants. This again is more concerned with the logistics module. So, and just to reiterate that in the CO module, we'll only be looking at the operating concern and the controlling area as our main organizational units. In our SAP transactions, you might come across these three transactions, because as I mentioned earlier in our presentation, all the CO values are coming from the financial accounting module or the other modules, where there will be definitely a link between FI and the CO module. So you'll always be mentioning the company code in any of your transactions. We'll not be using business area much, but at times with regard to procurement, you might see the plant also being mentioned. Let's look at the settings of the controlling area. As I mentioned earlier, one or more controlling areas can be assigned to an operating concern. In this diagram I have assigned controlling area AP00 and controlling area EU00 to one operating concern. An operating concern is also a 4-character ID. I can give a different character ID over here. I can even call it OP00 or anything, any type of 4-character ID. Now this concept I have done this is for Asia Pacific region controlling area. In that I have few company codes. Similarly for EU, that is for European controlling area, and I have one company code over here. So just like how we assign one or more controlling areas to one operating concern, you can assign one or more company codes to one controlling area. So in this example I have shown two company codes using the same controlling area. So this is like a many-to-one relationship, and here one company code using one controlling area. So this is one-to-one relationship. So both of these company codes, if they belong to this controlling area, they should have the same operating chart of accounts. If they cannot have different chart of accounts, they must have the same operating chart of accounts. And because of that chart of accounts being the same chart of accounts, and both the company codes are linked to the same controlling area, they can perform cross-company code transactions, or you call it as inter-company code transactions. These are more related towards the FI module, but in terms of CO module, if they are both in the same controlling area, then they can allocate costs between this company code to the other company code via the CO objects like cost centers. So you can actually allocate a cost from this admin cost center to company code SG01's finance cost center or any of their production lines. So sometimes this company might be producing some goods on behalf of this company. So you can actually allocate the cost from this company code to the other company code. This is all possible because they have the same operating chart of accounts and they use the same controlling area. Now let's come to the next level, the plants. You can have one or more plants assigned to one company code. Now this relationship I have shown 2:1, and here I have shown 1:1. So plants can be in different locations depending on your manufacturing plant, or you can even have your warehouses in different regions, and you can also call that as a plant because you can see distributing from this plant or getting stocks in this plant and so on. Now each company code you assign a fiscal year variant. This again is more towards the FI module. Fiscal year variant mentions from which year to which month to which month is your calendar year. Sometimes you can have your calendar year depending on your country's requirement from January to December. Sometimes it can be from July to June, April to March, and so on, depending on each country's reporting financial year, the fiscal year variant will also differ. Also, one fiscal year variant will have 12 periods, posting periods, which is usually your 12 months of the year. And they can also have 4 special periods. 4 special periods, a maximum of 4 special periods. They can have no special periods, 1 special period, or maximum of 4 special periods. Special periods are used for year-end adjustment postings. Now, the 2 company codes assigned to the same controlling area can have different fiscal year variants depending on their country's financial year reporting periods. They can have different fiscal year variants, but the number of posting periods must be the same. For example, now here if you have 12 posting periods, that is usually for 12 months, then this company code also must have 12 posting periods. They can have different special periods. For example, this company code can have a fiscal year variant of 12 posting periods and 1 special period. This can have 12 posting periods and 4 special periods. Special periods can differ, but the number of posting periods has to be the same. That means the number of months, let's say for example 12 months in this company code, then it also has to be 12 months in this company code as well. That is usually very logical. You might find it, yes, of course, why would not there be 12 months? Some fiscal year variant, so there's more detail in the FI topic it's covered. There's something called a shortened fiscal year variant, where sometimes one company, because they're going to go into a new year and they're going live just 3 months before the new year, so they only have 3 months left, so they don't want to create a new fiscal year just for those they want to start from the fresh fiscal year. So just for those 3 months they'll create something called a shortened fiscal year with just only 3 posting periods. This of course is a very rare scenario, and I will explain this more detail in the FI module training under the fiscal year variant section. But just for now, just related to the CO module, just remember that there are 2 things you must know, that if 2 company codes are assigned to the same controlling area, they must have the same operating chart of accounts, number 1, and number 2 is that the number of posting periods must be the same. That's the main condition. Now, to define the controlling area in the system, you need to follow the following menu path: enterprise structure, definition, controlling, and maintain controlling area. And this will actually give the description of the controlling area, who's responsible for this controlling area. There's going to be 1 company code or multiple company codes assigned to the controlling area. You choose that option over here. Currency type, currency, the chart of accounts, and the fiscal year variance. This I have mentioned, for the controlling area you must specify the chart of accounts, and if you are assigning multiple company codes for this particular controlling area, they also should use the same chart of accounts. And this fiscal variant in this controlling area and the company codes used underneath must have the same number of posting periods. Now let's look at how to create the controlling area in the system. I'm going to use the same video clip as how we have created at the time for financial accounting. In asset accounting, we have to create cost centers and controlling area with regard to creating assets and to send depreciation to cost centers. So let's use the same video clip for that. So we'll be consistent using the same controlling area for our other configuration as well. Now, before you create the cost centers in the system, you got to define the controlling area to create all these cost centers. Now, what is this controlling area? You will discuss it more detail in the CO module, but for now, just to give you a basic idea, all the CO objects like cost centers, profit centers, internal orders, and so on, they all have to be assigned to a controlling area. Controlling area, just from the CO module itself, controlling. The controlling area is like an umbrella which overlooks all the objects in the CO module. So you have to first define that. So the menu path is enterprise structure, definition, controlling, maintain controlling area. Now, for those who are doing the FI certification, this is not important to know all these steps, but to do our asset master data setting, you have to define cost centers. So for that only we are doing these settings to make the asset master data complete. So let's execute this transaction. Okay. Maintain controlling area, execute that. And that will pop up with all the current controlling areas in the system. So you want to create your own controlling area. So let's go and click on new entries. Now here we can specify our controlling area information. So I'm going to call it my controlling area as Z123, or I can just give it as Z100. Let's just make it a bit more adventurous, and I'll say Z000. Okay, so name I'll call it MNM controlling area, something like that. You can also give a person responsible, you can just leave it blank also. Assignment control, whether one company code is in one controlling area or many company codes are in the same controlling area. For us, we'll use the setting many company codes are using the same controlling area, so you can do cross company code transactions. So we'll use the cross company code cost accounting option. So currency type, you can choose what type of currency, not whether it's going to be company code currency or controlling area currency. We'll make it simple by using the same company code currency option or controlling area currency. So this, in terms of reporting on, it will tell you which currency you can do the reports in. So if you're in a group company, if you want to specify a group currency, you can click on group currency also. For us, we'll want to use everything in Australian dollars, and we'll make it simple. We'll use company code currency. Currency I will specify it as AUD. And for chart of accounts, let me select the chart of accounts. Now this chart of accounts and the fiscal year variant has to be the same setting as what you have specified in your financial accounting for your company code. So let's go and check that setting here. If you know, of course, you can just directly type in as well. So let's go to the SAP IMG menu, financial accounting new, financial accounting global settings, global parameters for company code, enter global parameters. Now here we can check the transactions, and let's go to our company code Z123. Z123, you can check the settings over here. Okay, so let's check our fiscal year variant, that is Z1. So you have to use the same thing here as well, Z1. Then let's check our chart of accounts, ZCOA. So we have used the same chart of accounts. Then only we can assign this company code to this controlling area. So those two have to be the same here as well. And you click on save. Press OK to continue for the transaction. So that's how you define the controlling area. Next, you need to assign your company code to the controlling area. Press OK to continue. Exit the screen. So let's go to assignment under the enterprise structure. Controlling. Assign company code to controlling area. So let's do that transaction. And let's scroll down to our company code. So this is our controlling area. So let's select our controlling area. Assignment of company codes. Let's select that. Click on new entries and enter your company code over here. Press enter to continue and save the transaction. Press OK to continue. So now you have done the two basic settings. You have created the controlling area. You have assigned your company code to controlling area. Let's exit. Let's look at the type of currencies used in the CEO module. First thing you have is your controlling area currency. So in the controlling area setting, you assign what currency this controlling area is going to use. If you look at this screen over here, is one of the controlling area setting. You define the currency over here, currency setting. What currency you want the controlling area to use. You can also assign a company code currency to use a controlling area if it's usually in a one-to-one assignment, or you can give your separate controlling area currency itself. For example, in your controlling area for your Asia Pacific region, you might have different company codes with different currencies. Australian company codes will have in AUD, New Zealand one will have in NZD, and so on. But for your Asia Pacific region controlling area currency, you can specify it as USD. So then when you run the reports using this controlling area currency, you will get all the reports in US dollars. Now there's something called the object currency. Now we have seen the account assignment objects in the CO module. Briefly we just discussed earlier. That is like your cost centers, internal orders and so on. All these account assignment objects will also have their own currency. For example, in your company code, if you have many different cost centers, you will usually assign those cost centers as per your company code's currency. But let's say for one example, you are going to have a marketing campaign in a foreign country, and then you want to use that currency in your internal order. For example, you're creating internal order as a marketing campaign, and you're going to have a marketing campaign in Malaysia, and your home country is in Australia. So then you will set the internal order currency as Malaysian ringgit, that is MYR. So all the expenses you incurred in that country, you'll be usually having all the invoices in that country itself. So in that country currency itself, so you'll be posting in that currency in MYR. So like that, for different objects, you can have your own object currencies. And then you can run your report specifically using that currency only. So you'll see for that marketing campaign, how much did it cost me in Malaysian ringgit itself. So you don't have to post that in Australian dollars. You can post it in that foreign currency itself. So like this, for different cost objects, you can have different currencies. Third option in CO is your transaction currency. So sometimes you might have vendors in different countries or even customers in different countries, and they will send your invoice. For example, a vendor invoice, they might send it to in that vendor's foreign currency. So you also enter that foreign currency invoice in the foreign currency itself in SAP. You don't have to convert it yourself into AUD. You directly enter it in the foreign currency, and based on the exchange rate conversion table that you have maintained in the system, its system will automatically calculate what is your home currency. So these are different three types of currency available in the system, and you can run reports based on these three types of currencies. So let's look at the need for the company code to controlling area assignment. Whether it's going to be multiple company codes to one controlling area or one company code to one controlling area. So the advantage of having multiple company codes to one controlling area is you can have cross company code postings. This is also called intercompany code postings. So if you want to transfer costs or assets or any other different type of information from one company code to another company code, you can do these cross company code postings if both the company codes are within the same controlling area. This can be example for you might have a head office one company code, and they might purchase items on behalf of their other subsidiaries. So when they do the purchasing, they will only get the invoice from the particular vendor, but they will make the payment to the vendor, but they will transfer the expenses to the other subsidiary companies. This can also apply to situations where the company can not only pay for vendor, they can even sell items on behalf of the other subsidiaries. They might transfer one asset. For example, they might transfer a building or a vehicle from one company code to another company code. So all these type of company code postings can only happen if the cross company code controlling is allowed. In this screen, I'll just show you. If this option is selected only, you can perform all this. Cross company code controlling, that option means you can assign multiple company codes to use the same controlling area. Other option is you'll have cross company code reporting. So you can see the intercompany reports. That means because they'll all use the same operating chart of accounts, you can run a consolidated report. That means combining more than one company code. You can see for your whole group company codes what is your total consolidated values. And not only for total consolidated values, you can even specifically see for one particular type of expense, how much is my total expense across my all company codes as well. And this can be applied to other elements of the general ledger account as well. You also have the option of cross company code allocation. This is where you actually allocate one cost from one cost center to another cost center of a different company code. This can also be between internal orders, cost centers, COPA segments, or any other type of CO object allocation methods. You also have the option that you can assign one profit center to cover more than one company code. For example, you might have 3 company codes producing the same product, so you can assign this profit center to those 3 company codes. You might have a company code called Lifebuoy, which might produce detergents or sanitary items and soaps and so on. you might have another company code called Sunsilk, you might have another company code called Rexona, and all these three company codes might produce a similar type of product. So you can call it health and personal care, and you can have a profit center called health and personal care profit center, and you can assign this profit center to all those three different company codes. So that's one option possible if they are all under the same controlling area. So whether you want to assign one company code to one controlling area or many company codes to one controlling area, it all depends on your company's policy or your group of companies' policies. Sometimes they might want to simplify it and just have for each country one controlling area, and they'll ask all the company codes in that particular country to use the same controlling area. Or they might say for every company code you have your own controlling area. So depending all on your company's policy. Of course, there's more flexibility if you have more company codes assigned to the same controlling area because of all the 4 options I mentioned above. And also that, for example, you might only have one company code and you assign to one controlling area. Later you might want to have a separate company code for your subsidiaries. You might form a subsidiary, you might acquire another company code, you might merge with another company code, or you might even want to split your company code into 2 different company codes. So for all these options, it's always better to link it to cross company code controlling, even if you have just one company code, because it will always give you greater flexibility in the future. Let's quickly recap of what we have learned. We learned the organizational units in the CO module. The 2 main important organizational units is the operating concern and the controlling area. We also saw some other organizational units like company code, business area, and the plant, which belongs to the other modules. The business area and company code belongs to the FI module, and the plant belongs to the logistics modules. Now, as part of your configuration practice, set up the controlling area, give it a definition, and also assign your company code to the controlling area. You should also know the assignments of company codes to controlling area and their required properties. For example, we saw the 2 main required properties is that they should have the same operating chart of accounts, and the number of posting periods must be the same for their fiscal year variants. You should also know the benefits of having multiple company codes using the same controlling area is also called as cross company code controlling.